Now our journey today will take us eventually to Bamborough Castle, when we shall reiterate the story of the conversion of King Edwin. Of course, King Edwin is linked with Edinburgh and an event in the Sherwood Forest which I shall share with you in a little while. But here is the River Alne that flows into the North Sea, and the cross on the hill depicts the situation where once the church stood until floodwaters covered this area and necessitated the removal of the church and the churchyard. And the cross is a symbol of what was once where the church stood, and where of course it was a symbol of Christianity here on the Northumbria coast. So in a little while we shall be travelling north to Bamborough Castle to give you the story of the most remarkable conversion of Edwin, King Edwin. Thank you. Castle of Bamborough. Let me just give you some dates to begin with. AD 597, when the arrival of the mission from Rome, when St. Augustine landed at Ebbsfleet in Kent. 625 AD, St. Paulinus was sent to Northumbria. AD 627, Edwin, King of Northumbria, was baptized by Paulinus. AD 63 was the Battle of Heathfield or Hatfield, and sadly in that year King Edwin died. Now it was due to the Northumbrian area that the Roman mission was sent in 597 AD. We remember the story of Gregory the Great, seeing in the marketplace at Rome angel-faced boys from this area. So he was determined to send a mission to the land. St. Augustine was chosen for the work, but it was Paulinus who eventually came here with the message of the gospel. It was here that was the seat of authority of King Edwin. And in a little while we'll tell you about his conversion and all the wonderful events that took place in this part of the UK. This is Northumbria, a land on the northeast coast, and I'm sure you'll be thrilled when you listen to the story. Bamborough Castle in the background, the home of power and seat of power of Edwin, from which we have Edinburgh or Edwinburgh. And Edinburgh, of course, is named after King Edwin. Our great interest on this occasion is to share with you how he came into a saving knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ. Edwin was a very cautious man, and that's why when Paulinus visited him in AD 627, that it took quite a time for Edwin to be convinced that Jesus Christ was indeed the Son of God. He liked the Christian religion, but he didn't fancy worshipping Christ particularly. But that was to dawn on him, and eventually he became a committed Christian. Edwin was a ruler of many talents, and it is said that during his reign, after his conversion, and I quote you from Venerable Bede, who incidentally died in 804, a woman with her babe might walk scatheless from sea to sea in Edwin's day. That meant from coast to coast. And also Edwin insisted that where the water was provided in wells and rivers that was good for drinking, that cups were provided there and chained there. And we understand these were never stolen, but they did provide for thirsty passengers, thirsty travellers. King Edwin entertained Paulinus. Paulinus came into the UK, into Kent, around 601 AD, and he came at the Lord's instruction to visit Edwin. Edwin heard the gospel in the castle, but he was not persuaded. In fact, he was very angry and indignant to learn that he was a sinner and that Christ had come to save him. And so he threatened Paulinus with a beheading if he was ever seen in Northumbria again. But Paulinus made his way south, and God gave him a very vivid vision, and that vision was to return to Bamborough Castle and give Edwin a second opportunity to become a Christian. Edwin, of course, received him, but then an amazing thing happened. While Paulinus was opening his speech on that second occasion to Edwin, the curtains moved and out ran a little girl of about 8 years of age, and this was Edwin's granddaughter. But it was soon very obvious to Paulinus that the granddaughter was deaf and dumb. Whereupon King Edwin said to Paulinus, "If your Christ can do all the things you told me, can he not cure my granddaughter?" Paulinus took up the little girl, placed her on his knee, covered her ears with his hands, and prayed the prayer of faith. To Edwin's complete astonishment, the little girl covered her ears afterwards because sound had come for the first time and she could hear. Whereupon Edwin called the whole family, testified of the miracle he had witnessed, and they all bowed their knee to the Lord Jesus Christ. Paulinus, in a hurry then to go south, made his way down towards the River Trent. But as he arrived there, he learned that King Edwin was chasing after him on horseback. Evidently, Edwin met with an accident in a little hamlet today that is called Edwinstowe. It was to this hamlet that Edwin gave his personal name, for they attended to him, and he was able to go down into the area of the River Trent and catch up with Paulinus. Paulinus, fearing the worst, felt that this was his final opportunity, but it was granted to him, and there he had the joy of baptizing Edwin. He then returned with Edwin at Edwin's urgent request to begin to evangelize in Northumbria. It is said that in one spot, which we hope to put on record, he baptized no less than 3,000 Northumbrians in one day. That was about AD 627. And so we praise God for Edwin's testimony and his ministry. Let me just read some more from the report of his life, finally. Edwin, we understand, was baptized in the presence of his followers, and he was remembered to be a tall man of stooping form. No mention is made of any inability to make himself understood by the Northumbrians, but it is suggested that Paulinus may have amongst those slaves that were originally in Rome, who were then Christianized by Pope Gregory and sent back to their home area to witness for the Lord. And so the English slave became the English evangelist. And we thank God for the testimony of Paulinus throughout this region, who is to leave an impact in so many areas. There'll be more about Paulinus later in our coverage of this particular community, but that is the story as it is related so far. We hope to go and visit the area where Paulinus baptized the number that was mentioned on the record by Bede, and I'm sure you will enjoy what you will soon see.
We just met,
Okay.
and
Paulinus was a slave in Rome, and when Pope Gregory came into power, what he did, he talked to the slaves and found where they came from, because they came from all quarters of the earth for the Roman Empire. And what he then did, he taught them Christianity and allowed them to go back to the country of their origin.
All right.
So then they took the message back from the country from which they'd become enslaved. They were enslaved for various reasons, we won't go into that. And Paulinus came back to the UK because it was here where he originated. And of course, he was very much drawn to this part of the United Kingdom. And Northumberland, yeah. He
Was it he who said, when they saw the fair haired, and who said angeles, but angels.
that's it.
Yes.
And the Latin is sed angeli.
And that's where you get the two double words Anglo-Saxon
That's
from,
it.
actually. Yeah,
There you go, Michael.
Wow.
yeah. That's right.
Oh, good mark.
Good boy. Good mark. 10 out of 10.
And who baptized? They've just been reading
Well,
through
this is the amazing thing about it, and this is, we'll be discussing this on the way. He actually baptized 3,000 people in this place.
Yeah.
And you say, well, where did 3,000 people come from in a community like this?
Couldn't get in the bus.
We've been discussing this, and we've come to the conclusion that the Black Death must have hit this area badly. And the Black Death, you know, in the 1600s,
Yeah.
took nearly all the agricultural workers away from England, because I've concentrated on that down in Derbyshire.
Yeah.
Because in Derbyshire we have a village called Ian, and the Black Death was brought from London to Ian in some materials by a tailor.
Never.
And he came back to the village, not knowing, you see, what he was carrying. And the material was in the cottage for a while, and then they put it in front of the fire to dry it out so he could make the materials, and then that the thing alive.
Freeze it, probably.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
How very interesting.
And
And they both
half
ruled
the
with-
population died in the village. But to save the plague going into Derbyshire, because it didn't touch Derbyshire as a whole, but to save the plague, what happened was this. They had a river running through the village, on the outskirts of the village rather, and so the people would bring the food to the edge of the river, and then
Float it down.
they'd walk through
Oh,
the
right.
water,
Right.
you see, because that was the borderline, to gather the food, but nobody touched anyone. You see, that's how they... And the only one who really survived well was the vicar of the village church for some reason. Well, we believe it was his faith in God that kept him alive, because he buried most of the people.
Yes.
And you get large families in Ian of 12 and 15 people. But once the plague hit the family, that was it. They were all counted out then, you see. And I feel the plague was in this area as well, because that's why all the agricultural people that would be here, because there weren't businesses here, or there wasn't factories here or anything like that, and they would die in the plague.
And of course, in some cases, they shifted the whole village, didn't they? Matfin village, you can see, which is near us in Northumbria, you can see where the village was with the mounds, and they vacated that and built a new village.
Yes, so would that be dated? Because that would probably be dated to the 16th century.
I should have thought
or
so.
17th century.
But
because this has happened more recently actually in Derbyshire, but that's because they've been doing coal workings on the surface, and then they fill them in, and then all the vapours have come through and poisoned the villagers, so they've had to move the whole village, say 2 miles away, which is a similar situation. But Paulinus came up here in about 627 AD, and his main theme, his main vision was to convert King Edwin, Edwin, that's right, who was of course of Edinburgh. And he was in Bamborough Castle, that's the seat of authority. And Paulinus went up to him by divine direction, and he told him about Jesus and the cross and why he died, and that we all needed to be forgiven and so on. And this offended Edwin. He didn't like it at all. It was a secret. So he said, if you come in my presence again, I'll take your head off your shoulders, or words to that effect. So Paulinus thought I'd get away while it was going good. And he got down as far as the River Trent, because Edwin's area went right down to the Trent in those days, in Nottinghamshire.
I thought it was the Humber that was further.
Well, it went right down. I'll tell you why I know this, simply because Edwin came chasing after Paulinus after he'd headed south. By the way, his conversion was through a miracle. When he went back again, a second time did Paulinus with his head in his hands, like sort of thing. And while he was in the presence of Edwin, the curtains moved, and out ran a little girl. She'd be about 8 years of age, and she ran and jumped on Edwin's knee, and it was his granddaughter, and she was born deaf and dumb. And Paulinus picked this up after a while.
Right.
And so Edwin turned around to Paulinus and said, you've been telling me all about Jesus and his miracles and everything. What about my granddaughter? So he said, he invited the little girl to come and sit on his knee, and Paulinus prayed for her, and she had her ears opened and started to speak words. And this absolutely convinced Edwin then, and he brought his whole family in, and they all knelt down and he prayed for them and so on. And he was with them 2 or 3 days, but he still didn't feel happy and comfortable there. So he went down to, on his way back to Kent, because actually he was brought up originally by Ethelberg, who married King Edwin eventually. From Kent, she was the Princess of Kent.
Did she give the land at Hexamethy? That princess, one gave the land.
Yes, well, of course, she would be his partner and inherit the whole area, wouldn't she?
You're not on this land for nearly 100 years and not.
So lucky to have met you.
Well, they were going through Sherwood Forest. I must tell you this bit because I couldn't that area. Edwin was chasing through Sherwood Forest, 1 or 2 soldiers, and he fell off his horse in his excitement to get through. And so, in this little hamlet in Sherwood Forest, they came and bound him up and put him straight, put him back on his horse, and he gave his name to the village, and it's called Edwin Stowe to this day. And that was the centre of the Robin Hood.
I was going to say,
amazing. And when they got to the River Trent, what happened was Edwin said to Paulinus, hey, you've not baptised me, you talked about being baptised, but I want to be baptised. So he was actually baptised in the River Trent.
Oh, right.
And then Edwin said, come back with me, please, please, and preach to my people in Northumbria. So this is the outcome. So in 627, of course, you get this scene here.
That explains what we were talking about with population. It was so great and probably decimated in the plague.
I think, because they had 2 big plagues between the times. So yes, I think that's what happened.
But I know that my ex-husband's cousin was baptised here, and I can't remember.
Now, what
How
church was
long
it
ago?
associated with this
Oh.
particular church?
No, because they don't have. No, she's never. I don't know whether there was it was like a pilgrim kind of that there were. Yeah, of some kind. But I can't remember. I just remember being told because when the first time I came here, he mentioned that. But no, it
It's a
doesn't.
strange thing that we should meet you here today because the Lord's hands on you.
We are so fortunate.
The Lord's hands on me. I could do with some help. Honestly, good night, Michael. But no. But I do. It does, as I say, it does have a different feel.
Yeah.
But it's still, I do feel very. It does get you. It gets you
You
here.
have a sensitivity towards
Yes.
spiritual things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So somewhere in your family there was someone who had a spirituality that's come through to you.
Oh right.
It is real.
The Lord.
It is.
What time was Edwin?
Edwin was 627 was the baptisms here, so Bamburgh Castle would be 600 onwards.
And the Northumbrian king, who was the one after Edwin, do you know?
Was it Oswald?
Oswald.
Oswald, that's right. He
Oswald.
was the one who defeated the Welsh heathens at Heavenfell. You've been to Heavenfell, the heavenly field.
No, no.
Just
There's
above
another
Channel
connection.
Ford, I mean,
I don't know this area.
No, Michael is just.
you ought to go. It's a fascinating place. And the heathen, Cadwalla, came from Wales.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. He was the problem, wasn't he? And he was linked up with another king.
That's right. And he was defeated
That's right.
at Heavenfell.
Oh, it was there where he was
Yeah.
defeated.
And they've got a little church there on the spot. Fascinating.
Yes, because he attacked Bamburgh Castle, didn't he?
Yes, I think.
And while he was attacking Bamburgh Castle, he couldn't get through because it's so stout. So what he did, he took some of the properties and piled them all up on the walls and set fire to them to try and burn his way in, you know.
Yeah.
And Aidan was on the Isle of
Lindisfarne.
yeah,
Holy Island.
and he prayed when he saw the smoke going up, and he asked the Lord to change the situation. And suddenly the wind changed,
Which it does happen up there.
and it came across
I know that.
Cadwallader's troops and all that, and they were in great trouble, and they called it, packed it up and went away. So,
It's probably went to Heavenfell after that. To take on the king.
yeah.
Oh, there you go, Michael.
Aren't we lucky?
What a chance meeting.
Oh no.
Yes, it is.
Bless
Yeah.
you. I just thought, because as I say, I love this place, and there's a walk that I do right the way through the wood and back round if I'm on my way to see Dad. But I said I would bring Michael.
Well, we are making
Just a little.
a DVD of all this. Like, if you like a copy, we'll pop one in.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Got a,
It might be a week or so, but
God,
more like if you can take.
have you got a pen? No pen, no.
I've got a pen and a bit of paper somewhere. But
Where are you staying now?
Michael, have you got any paper
I'm
on you,
staying with
sweetheart?
the pastor
In Alnwick.
who's down
Here you are.
at Alnwick.
Yeah.
At Alnwick, yeah.
You're not going to Hexham Way.
Well, no, we're going to, from here, where do we go from?
We'll go Woolworth way.
Willow
Oh,
Way.
Willow.
There's another baptismal place.
I was thinking of
Is there?
Heavenfell, you know, if you could
Oh,
see
yes,
that.
well, I'll keep that in mind, because we come up every year.
Yeah,
So,
keep
I
it
mean,
in
it's an
mind.
ongoing thing with us, is this.
It's
We
on
go
what
around.
we call the military road, Wade's Road. You know, a lot of people think it's a Roman road, it isn't.
How far did the Romans come into this area?
All right.
In this area, well, they got to the Roman wall, and then, of course, they went through the wall and built the Antonine Wall from the Firth of Forth to the west coast.
Now,
They built that later.
do you know of Ticinto? Is it Ticinto? Which was the most northern Roman force in the Roman Empire.
Probably
That was built in AD 80 to 83.
Oh, that's before the Roman wall. Roman wall's 126.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it would be when they were further. I would imagine that's further north.
Definitely further north.
I'll tell you why I find that interesting, because they come from Oxford every year, the trainee archaeologists,
Yeah.
and they go to Tinstuttle, and what they do is have a dig.
It's sorry, I can tell you what it was because I've been there. Just outside the town.
Is that right? Is that
Because
far
that's where
away?
you got all the nails.
Is that far away from us?
Thank you.
From here, yes, I am.
What away is it?
Wow,
yeah,
it's
you're
going to
fine.
take
Yeah.
2
Don't
hours.
worry.
Do you know,
Don't worry.
during the day,
Inch Tuttle, yes.
about 8 years ago now, they discovered the blacksmith area where the blacksmiths operated. Because you see, all the forts were wooden forts, so they needed nails and joining equipment. And what happened was they found a whole heap of nails, about 500,000 nails. And they were different sizes, from 6 inches to 20 inches. And when they got into the middle of this heap, they were just as fresh as the day they made them. So I secured some of these. Yes. But the thrilling part about it all was that it was the 10th Roman Legion that was here doing the Tunstuttle, giving them a break because they were usually in the forefront of all the battles. Now it was the 10th Roman Legion that was in Jerusalem when Jesus was crucified. Yeah. And so we sent it to the British Steel Federation to ask them to give us some idea of how they were made, and so we got about 10 A4 sheets with the details on. But I didn't ask for this information, but they gave it to me. They said, oh, by the way, the nails that we use for the sacrifice of Jesus were so long, and they sent me samples of them because it was the same Roman Legion that was there. But I didn't actually ask for the details, so I thought it was very thrilling that they did that.
You see, the legions, they had legions up to build the wall, or supervise it mostly, and slaves. And then once it was finished, the wall, the legions retreated to York and Chester, the 2 big legions, and stayed there. And the Picts broke through the wall in about 160 AD, and the legions had to march up and restore order.
Yeah.
I have a thing about. I'm not sure if there was. I was just saying to Michael when we first come into the village, and there's some buildings getting renovated. I'm sure I was told that was a monastery or something.
There's a church there.
Well, there was
a friar.
Or a nunnery
there
or
was a
something.
nuns here. There were
Or
nuns
was the
here.
nuns here? Yes.
Yes.
Right. So that was right.
Because there's more information here than what there is now.
Yeah, I'm sure there was
Yes,
more.
that's
I'm sure.
We'll have
My
to see
dad-
It's a
this.
shame. They ought to get down to erecting it again.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure because I'm sure there was something more. Because is there something that tells you about? Is there anything that tells you that came from Alnwick? No. Well, you see, that was definitely here the first time I was here.
That's right.
Because that's how I knew that. That's what.
Well, I've read it somewhere as well.
Or
It must
where
have been here.
It's in the book. We've got an ancient book of the area, and it's in there. There's a page on
this,
isn't
right,
there?
yes.
There's a page on this, and that's why it tells you.
Is there in Hodgson's Book of Northumberland, Michael? Is there anything?
We'll look it up. Yeah. We've got a history of Northumberland.
We've got a history.
Have you?
Yeah, he's got all the volumes.
visit you.
Come.
We were in the priory.
Yes, he's got the whole.
Have you read it?
Yes, he's got the whole.
We've got one. I'm certain it covers this area.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right, are we
been
going to have
lovely
a
to
one?
meet you.
That's nice to meet you.
Very fortunate. Thank you so
Bless
much.
you. Yes, it's been, my name's Peter.
We've shared information here.
If you want to, Peter has a site. He is at Queen's Equi, and he does a lot of other interesting stuff.
All right.
So if you go on to Scothern ministries.com.
All right.
There's
And,
pages there, and I've done films for Sky Television. One's on
Well,
this.
actually, I was going to say, I'm sure I might
It's
have
one of those
seen
days,
it
isn't it?
before. I think I have.
What on Sky? It's to do with the chalice. I won't go into all that. It's to do with the chalice. That was the one that.
Have you ever come across a guy called Simon Cox?
Yeah, the name's got a little bit of familiarity.
Something-
Why? You tell me a little bit more.
He was my God. My ex comes into this a lot. Sister's boyfriend for a long time, and Simon's wrote books on the Da Vinci Code and
Oh,
and
yeah.
Wow.
and and Egypt. He's very much into Egyptology.
Yes, that's right. That's what rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Small world.
Can we,
Rosalind, the Bible code and so on.
Peter? We went down to Cornwall with a group.
Yeah.
October of last year, and we were
Where were you?
blessed by the fact that Peter showed the group where Jesus and Joseph of Arimathea came to these shores. Yeah. And
So where was that in Cornwall?
Well, you start with the Lewes, east and west Lewes, on the south coast of Cornwall. But you see, what happened was, without going into lots of detail, after the death of Stephen was stoned to death, the Sanhedrin had a hit list, and they wanted to remove anyone that was connected with Jesus. After Jesus died, they thought, let's get rid of everything and get back to our Jewish religion and forget all about this. And in the process, Joseph of Arimathea, who actually was a metallurgist, now this will bless you.
a businessman.
Joseph had a brother called Joachim, and Joachim married Anne, and Anne was a Celt, and they were the grandparents of Jesus. So you have this Celt connection with Jesus in the most remarkable way.
Yeah. So we'll send you the 3 DVDs on that as well.
But no, it's just a very small world.
There's lots of mystery.
This, can I ask now? This might go on the internet, but would you be okay about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
It might. I'm not saying it will.
Oh God, you like your film stuff.
But
We like personal conversations like this rather than sort of preaching at people or teaching at people. We like to do it this way. You know. And we meet some exciting people, I tell you. Oh yeah. So
something to do with the cross, where they have the rave in Somerset.
Glastonbury Street.
oh yeah.
But that is on the same area, you see.
now Glastonbury
Just up the road.
Glastonbury's first name was Avalon. Avalon means Apple Island, Apple Place. And Glastonbury means glass place. But it's not that glass was manufactured there. But the whole of that area until the 11th century was under tidal waters. And there were 21 islands there, of which Glastonbury or Avalon was an island. It was an island. So you had tidal waves coming in twice a day, up to the depth of 8 feet. And English Heritage recently have just built an area, what it used to be like, before what it is like now. And the Phoenician vessels would come in through there to Pilton, which is beyond Glastonbury today.
It's my dad's birthday today,
And
where the hell we
they built a church at Glastonbury, which they called the Oldie Church or the Wattle Church. And the subsequent priories and monasteries that were built round this Wattle Church. Sadly, in 1183, the cathedral that was there then, or the whatever they called it, was burnt to the ground.
I went to a very interesting little
But it was like a museum.
When you say a Wattle Church, what's that exactly?
A Wattle Church, right. You put your stick in the ground like that, a very strong stick, and put it in the ground. And you put it about 4 inches apart.
And use the dung, anything you can get your hands on.
Interweave into
hazel,
that.
split hazel?
Yes. And
You
then
like
you
Dublin
get mud from the river,
hurdles, Michael,
Just like
which is
basket
like a lime, and you plaster it.
You'll have wattle walls in Starwood Manor, sweetheart, with horsehair and God
That's
knows
it.
what.
Sheep hair, the long
Yeah,
way.
you will have. It's how they're wrapped, but you
You know
will.
the Wattle Church stood 1100 years after it was built? 1100 years. Even stone properties might not stand that long.
You're not a pig, you don't eat beech nuts. Right, okay.
That's
Very
That's it.
good.
Have you got the church?
We must visit your manor and see this history of Northumbria.
Honestly, you'll have to.
I'll have to get it
Michael's
out for
absolutely
Jane.
fascinating.
Yeah,
He lives in a
lovely.
fascinating.
Don't forget
Brilliant.
Heffenfels
Oh yes, I must keep that well in mind for next year.
above
when we come.
Chollerford.
Is that what it is? Near Chalford.
That's where Cadwallader was defeated.
He was defeated,
Yes, good. I'd like to.
and you get
That's right.
And they used the king
He was a Welsh king.
used the Roman wall to help him,
Well,
because
so
the Roman
that-
wall was
I want
still
to see
standing, and then of
Roman
course they pulled it all down to build.
Oh, well, I'm a Northumbrian through and through.
He's a Welshman.
No,
Is he
no.
Welshman?
Oh, I don't know.
A Welshman. I was going to say that awful heathen king of Wales.
Because
Oh, God knows.
we could go into the lost tribes of Israel.
Oh, right. Well, honestly, my father is 79 today, and he's expected to be an Otterburn. He's going to be 80 by the time we get there.
Anyway,
And
I'll
Colonel
shake your
Bowers
hand.
amazing.
It's very nice to meet
I'm
you.
79 as well.
No, this is Michael.
Oh, this is Michael.
Michael is 97.
I'm
He's in his
97. The other way
98th year.
around.
wow,
Just
Oh, you are doing
She
well.
props me up.
I proper,
that is brilliant.
Good.
yeah, I had him in training, you see, for walking, so he can actually. Because I was worried that he wouldn't make this walk. But
He's made it well.
he's made it.
Yeah, it kills
Good
No,
on
we're
you.
on our way to my father's at Otterburn.
Otterburn.
To
Better
visit
release
with.
you then.
Yes,
We'll get there.
as we won't get there. Right,
Well,
that's fine.
pleasure.
There you go.
I should enjoy your birthday, your dad's
With my
birthday.
dad,
The cake.
oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Do that.
We've got what we brought him, Michael, rhubarb and eggs.
rhubarb and eggs I brought.
I'll leave you one thought before you go if you're eating rhubarb today. Rhubarb comes from Siberia and it grows at the side of the River Rhine in Siberia. And because Siberia was outside the Roman Empire sort of conclave, they call them barbarians. So that's where the name rhubarb comes from.
I never knew that. The barb is the part of barbarian. That's right. And the rue is what? The river?
The River Rhine. The River Rhine.
Isn't that interesting?
You never expected that today, did you?
See, Michael, even in your 98th year, you learned something.
There's always a reason.
Well, there you go. Who would have thought?
Pleasure bumping into you guys. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, I'm going to have a wander.
Yes, okay, bless you.
You're not going to be baptised here,
No, I was baptised at,
when you was
I
a
think
child.
I was, as a baby, probably at Campbell,
It's a type of commitment then, isn't it?
but I'm not confirmed. I'm the only one of my sisters that's not confirmed.
The main thing is though, that you, listen, the main thing is that you open your heart and mind
Oh, well,
to
that's,
Jesus, that's it.
well, I know.
Just here, you can do that all charity and time.
Right. I do.
No, I really mean that.
Have you got an old photograph now?
Bye-bye, God bless
Bless you.
you. Had to be, didn't it? You got that done. So where's it being pumped from now?
Well, I think it's being pumped out from this water, back up through pipes,
There's the pipe, look.
yeah, straight back up to the highest point up there.
There's the pipe, who's it?
Yeah.
And there, look.
But we can confirm that was a God moment.
Shall I talk about it?
Yeah.
Water supply for the ornamental pool of baptism is seemingly pumped by a pump here on the left up through here into the pool, and then the water reverses and comes down back to the village. Amazing, isn't it?
It's a watercress as well. So,
But it sounds as though it's in there somewhere, doesn't it?
you know what it is? The water's coming in, the pump's setting off, and it's carrying the vibration up through the pipe.
That's right, yeah.
That's what you got. Lovely. I'll keep it back to the window.
That was a very enjoyable conversation, wasn't it? It was, isn't it? You never know you're going to be talking to. No, you don't.
Jane, that was one for you, that?
My chest got very tight coming up the hill, and I usually find that if something happens like that, there's a tremendous experience to follow. It's I don't know what it is, but that's me.
So this. Just a chance meeting. Oh, let's have a look at this. And it says Holy Well.
No, I was just looking at them, just
see if they had one.
anything here. It's surprising, you know. See how many stained glass windows I have. Well done.
Go up on the right hand side and see they're quite
That's cute.
no comment there. Go on.
In the local parish church, I have this magazine, and it tells the story of an elderly man who was passing slowly away. He was stricken in bed, but he smelt some food that was coming up from the room below. So he managed to get out of bed, stagger down the steps, and went into the kitchen. And there were some biscuits that are being newly cooked by his wife on a plate. Thinking he was on his own, he went into the kitchen, picked up the biscuit and was about to eat it, and it was suddenly slapped out of his hand by his wife. And his wife said, "These are not for you, these are for your funeral." What date is it today? 20?
I think it's the last day, isn't it?
31st, 30th of April.
It's another countryside.
What an enjoyable morning.
Oh, it's been a lovely morning.
A wonderful day yesterday.
You couldn't have planned that, could you?
You couldn't.
You really couldn't have done.
And we couldn't have planned, Stuart, for you to be there to take all the details. I thought that was fantastic. Yeah. Because that's what you like, isn't it? You like something that's quite original.
Yeah, if it's original, it helps people. I think if it's staged a bit, then well, it's natural.
What's the place he was talking about? Hepplewhite?
Hepplewhite, Heppel.
That's Heppel, isn't it? Is that Hepplewhite or
No,
where the battle
Hepplewhite's
was?
further back, where the battle is. Hepplewhite, W-A-I-T-E.
Is it further on?
Did they leave it to
Yeah. That's how busy you've got to make.
That's where they had the battle.
I don't think they would have done.
With where Edwin got killed?
It's only
Did
the
he get killed?
ladies.
Yeah.
No. That's where your Welsh people got defeated.
Here. I think
Why did you
I'm
use renting?
is there's
generals and the kings,
no number.
they don't go into battle.
It's a rabbit. It's a squirrel. Oh, sorry, groundswell. This is Northumbria National Park.
The Romans had a signalling system. Fires on top of the hills.
Oh, yes.
And you could trace it from Carlisle right all the way to York.
Could you?
And it's more pronounced on Otterburn Ranges. There's a range is about 30 square miles
Yeah.
where the army have camps up there. What they do is they have separate camps with all the facilities, and they bring the whole regiment with them, cooks and everything, and they camp in these places. And they work from there. Amazing. So the camp commandant is a lieutenant, not a lieutenant, a colonel, and he has just a handful of staff to look after all these various camps. So it's the only private coal mine in the country. So this is Temple.
The white daffodils are still out. They seem to outlive the others. Or come a bit late. What's that? It reminds me of driving up to the Trossachs, this little route.
I visited that Roman camp in Scotland.
It's in Scothern.
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'd love to go over there. But it's a long way off, is it?
It's a long way off from here, yes. It's just outside Perth. Near,
Tell me about it.
near Blairgowrie. Well, it's just a farm, really. And they'd only excavated it and found all the nails.
Yeah.
And the local farmer has got a set of them, different sizes, polished and put in a case.
Is that right?
Yes, it's a local farmer. I was digging there, and asked his permission to go in. But it's just like a field with a lot of bumps on it. That's all it is at the moment.
Well, what happened was they sent nails to Edison in the museums.
Yes.
Perhaps.
Well, I tried to get some, but I was too late. The wagons had carted them all away the day before.
Oh.
I just saw the sight, you know.
There was a few thousand in it.
Yes. Well, the archaeologists said they were coming back again.
Well, they come back every year. Well, they did at one time.
I don't know.
They're trainee archaeologists from Oxford
Oh, yes, well,
come during the summer. Yeah, you know, July, August time.
I spoke to Dr. somebody or other of the university, who was one of the archaeologists, you know. But evidently left in a hurry.
Well, they did, because they had to go and do some fighting upon the northern borders.
Yes, yes.
And they were only there about 5 years
Yes, but
after they finished because it was a wooden fort.
but they weren't there as populace. They was there as
Guardians.
well, like tourists and visitors, if you like, guardians. I don't know what you call them. Because King Paulinus, they visited him.
Medieval ally in US. Yeah, was he the king of that area?
King that he had a holiday camp where Pontius Pilate's parents.
Well, was Pontius Pilate colony there then?
Not far away, Aberfeld they were. So, you want to visit?
When I'd mentioned that
really ridicule me over that.
No, no, no.
But,
Oh, the books I sent you,
yeah,
it mentions it.
that's true.
I haven't read the second one I was sent. With the picture on the back.
See, because they haven't been taught and educated about things like that, they don't believe them, you see. And then again, someone's got to tell them first time, haven't they?
Well, that's right.
And they either reject it or accept it.
You know, all these little things that you're
And I
talking
tell you
about.
that they think Pontius Pilate's buried there because they came across this gravestone.
Pontius Pilate,
Yeah.
buried there.
Yes. At near Aberfeldy.
Is that right?
You see, he had a half brother who suggested that he brought him back
Oh.
and buried him there.
Seems like he died in Switzerland.
We don't govern by plebiscite, we don't govern by mob rule, but on the other hand we don't ignore what the vast majority of the population are saying. I think Gordon's absolutely right to...
That was the road Martin's coming on.
So there we are. It's all hearsay, if you like.
Until we get more concrete evidence. But the books that came from Scotland, I'm not sure how far he went. Because I haven't read this latest one. Stayed
Have you got any more news on St Andrew?
St Andrew, no?
Visiting Scotland?
Yes, it's I read that somewhere. And what do you think of the stained glass window?
Why? Amazing. Yeah, amazing.
I'll have to go and see that.
Now in Weston, not Weston-super-Mare, are you listening, Stuart? In Weston, near Bath City, there's the most beautiful, huge stained glass window of the boy Jesus with Joseph of Arimathea,
Is there?
the tree that was planted in Avalon, which we call the Holy Thorn Tree, and the bishop. Now, what did the bishop do? The bishop who baptized, what did he baptize? One of the, it could have been Simon Zalot, you know, the zealous one, before he was crucified in Lincolnshire, something like that. I couldn't believe it. That's where, not far from where our brother lives, that used to come to our Bath meetings, and his wife Christine. It melted quickly, so they did do it. As is clearly portrayed in the notice, here we have Gefrin, the royal township of the 7th century Anglo-Saxon kings of Northumbria. Here the missionary Paulinus, who we've got great interest in, during AD 627, instructed the people in Christianity for 36 days and baptized them in the River Glen close by. So Paulinus was a very industrious and busy evangelist, because we can go to a number of places where he preached to many people and baptized them. Sometimes, as we saw in our last visit, to the tune of 3,000 at one time. Now, we've been questioning how an area of this kind, which seems so remote, and so sparse of people, where did they all manage to come from? But we've come to the conclusion that perhaps during the Black Plague, the dark plagues of 1600 and so on, 1666, that the agricultural population suffered greatly. In fact, sometimes the whole area was decimated, but it's estimated that at least half of those who worked on the land died during the Great Black Plague, and that could be a feasible reason why it is now so sparse and so uninhabited. Let's have a look at some more details about Gefren. Here we have more details of this Anglo-British settlement and the palace that once stood here. Early farmers built a temple and buried here, as did the earliest workers of bronze 1,000 years after them. During the Iron Age and Romano-British period, the ridge lay under the shadow of Yevering Bell, the greatest of Northumberland's hill forts. And there we have a diagram. The forts were usually circular in nature and were well protected. But by the middle of the 6th century AD, native administration fell under control of an immigrant Anglo-Saxon family ambitious to establish a royal dynasty founded upon military conquest. People expected to see their king exercising royal power at important centres in their kingdom. The court moved between various royal townships where it received tribute and was maintained. But back again to Paulinus. Once when Paulinus came to the king and queen in their royal palace at Gefren, he spent 36 days there occupied in the task of preaching and baptizing. This palace was left deserted in the time of the kings who followed Edwin, and another was built instead in a place called Macklim or Millfield. And that's reported by Bede in his History of the English Church. For a century this field was a stage for some of the most momentous events in early modern English history. It was the scene of widespread conversions to Christianity, especially through Bishop Paulinus. Paulinus was a slave who came from Italy. He was sent by Pope Gregory because Pope Gregory, when he came to power, exercised his authority in that direction, and if he could convert the slaves to Christianity, he often sent them back to the country of their origin with the gospel and to spread the message when they returned home. It also became the temporary home of some of the greatest kings and queens of the day, like Athelfrid, Edwin and Athelbury and the saintly Oswald, and then his younger brother Oswy. Twice it was fearlessly attacked by the British king, or the Welsh king Cadwallon, and the Mercian king Penda. From the close of the 7th century AD, all physical trace of the Anglo-Saxon palace, once an imposing presence, had faded away. So the site of Bede's and Gefren was lost until its rediscovery through aerial photography in the year 1949. A further detail of the history of Gefren, very quickly in conclusion, we have here on the notice board. The main items are that we go back to AD 651 when Penda attacks this kingdom. And then we read on that King Edwin and his Kentish queen rule an area which now extends from Lothian to the north of the Humber in the south. native Britons are converted to Christianity by the Queen's Bishop Paulinus. That was in 627 AD. We go on from there and we find that certain changes take place in Scothern. It becomes by 600 AD now a royal township with apartments for the king and his retinue. Tiered seating to hold around 150 persons is built, and a cemetery at the western end of the settlement expands. And finally, 580, it is recorded, the settlement at Uthering has begun regular wooden buildings of typical Anglo-Saxon form. A large timber enclosure was built at the eastern end of the site. So Scothern went into mystery, didn't it, until, as we've just stated, was rediscovered by an aerial photograph. It's an imposing area, isn't it, really, when you look at it?
That's
amazing stretch.
Millfield
Plains over there, yeah.
And this is
wonderful, really. Praise the Lord.
You've got the sand bit away to the left here. I was looking at the plans.
Have they done any digs here?
Yes, an aerial photographing. This is spread there. But they've done some recent ones. Just come on the
Whereabouts in the forest there?
more on the flare.
More on the
As you walk past the road, it's way to your right.
Yeah.